Good evening. We're back with more Disney Lorcana. This evening will be a card review for the Ruby cards from the Into the Inklands set, starting with the commons. The pattern that we're seeing so far is a couple of new playable cards added each set, some thematic cards, some cards that will only be suitable in sealed deck environments. That's pretty typical for every card game I've ever played. We'll see what we get from the Ruby set. So far, the clear winner to me has been Emerald, followed by Amethyst and Amber. We'll see where Ruby ends up. First up, we have Voyage, a 1-cost card. Move up to 2 characters of yours to the same location for free. I think the situation where this would be good will not happen very often. And as such, this card is likely not worth a spot in your deck, as if you did include it, most of the time you would just end up inking it almost all of the time. So might as well include another inkable card that you might actually get some use out of some of the time. Stitch, Little Rocket, 2-cost, uninkable. I'm not a big fan of uninkable low-cost cards. Low-cost or uninkable cards should obviously be in limited quantities in general anyway, but the low-cost ones in particular, they got to be pretty good, I think. Anyway, let's take a look at Stitch. He's a 3/1 with Rush, 1 lore, so he trades up. And he trades up immediately, or you can play him and get a little bit of questing in if you don't have any threats on the table. Trading up is good. If he can't trade up, though, he's probably just going to die fairly uselessly, because anything with 1 attack can trade with him, or he'll die to Tinkerbell, who is very, very common in the meta right now. So, does this card have a spot in Ruby decks? I don't think so. If he was inkable, maybe. I mean, Rush with 3 attack is good. It's good, but I think that uninkable just makes him too borderline. And he will get dropped for other cards like, I don't know, Mini Stylish Surfer, or other 2-cost Ruby cards. But it's not bad. It's not a bad card. It's certainly one you're going to be happy to see in a sealed deck environment. I think in a sealed deck environment he's pretty good. But given access to the full collection, there are better options for 2-drops. Duck, another 2-cost uninkable, and has 3/3 in stats, which is very strong, but no lore. And Reckless, this character can't quest and must challenge each turn if able. Ruby in general seems very combat focused to me. This card is no exception. Once again, the uninkable hurts it quite a bit. I don't see that getting played. The 3/3 in stats is good. It's similar to Stitch in that they offer pretty good upside, but the downside is significant as well. And so I think players will generally be looking for drops that are with less downside. I think you can find cards with the upside but without the significant downsides. Still, it's a better than average card. Jim Hawkins, Thrill Seeker, 2-cost, 3/2, 1 lore, very average. You'd play it as a shift target for a bigger Jim Hawkins. Other than that, I don't really see playing him. And at the moment, there isn't a Jim Hawkins to shift onto him. There may be in the future, but right now there isn't, so I don't see a reason to play this card outside of a sealed deck environment or in like a budget deck. And Duck and Stitch may have a role in a budget deck as well. They are commons. Milo Thatch, 2-cost, 2/2. While this character is at a location, he gets +2 attack, 1 lore. Well, the Ruby color does get some decent locations and decent location synergy, at least with its legendary Jim Hawkins. Milo could have a role in a location deck, but in general, cards with location synergy have not been good so far. They've been good, but too easily dealt with, too easily mitigated, not good enough when they're not at locations, and I see the same thing from Milo Thatch. So I don't think he gets played generally. And when we did the Amber cards, I noted that most of the healing effects are just not good enough. The one exception that gets played a lot is Rapunzel, but that wasn't in this set. Most of the location effects seem this way as well. They're just not good enough when at the location to make up for their downside when they're not at the location, and Milo's downside when he's not at a location is 2/2 is pretty weak for 2 cost. Nutsy, 2 cost, 2/3 in stats, 1 lore. I'd say similar things that I said about Jim Hawkins, who was 3/2. I think Nutsy's a little better. I think 2/3 is a little better than 3/2. So he's more likely to see play than Jim Hawkins, but there are better options available. These are our budget or sealed deck type cards that won't really see play outside of those situations. Peter Pan, Neverland Hero, 3 cost, 1/3, rush. While you have a character named Tinkerbell in play, this character gets +2 attack. 2 lore, so if you do have a Tinkerbell in play and you can play a 3/3 with rush for 3 cost, not bad with 2 lore. I mean, it's barely playable. Barely. Would I just play a 3/3 with rush outright with like 1 lore? Maybe. Yeah, probably. It'd fight for board control early. Probably wouldn't be that great late game. It's a thematic card. It's a fun thematic card. I don't think it gets played much though. The early versions of Tinkerbell aren't really that good. The steel sphere or the steel color does have a decent Tinkerbell, so I suppose if you're playing Ruby Steel, maybe. Yeah, I don't think this card sees play. The requirement of having the Tinkerbell in play is too much. Now, if there comes out a version of Tinkerbell that's very good in rush decks, a very strong, low-cost Tinkerbell, 1 or 2 cost, I mean, then maybe. Yeah, maybe. Kakamora, 3 cost, uninkable, 3/2. When you play this character, each opponent loses 1 lore. As with each of the cards that says each opponent does X, they're going to be stronger in a multiplayer environment than in solo. And because they're not going to want to balance cards so that they're overpowered in multiplayer, I think, they end up being a little bit underwhelming in solo. If you made the card really good in solo, then it would just be super overpowered in multiplayer. I don't think they're going to print cards that way. It's been the pattern in card games that I've played in the past where you wanted to scale up a card that way. Like Lord of the Rings LCG. So, with this character, same situation. It's going to be strong in multiplayer, more than 2 players, but not good in solo play. Agrabah, 3 cost, 1 movement cost, 5 health, 2 lore. It's good. I think most of the 2 lore locations end up being pretty decent if their movement costs aren't very high. I'm trying to think. It's hard to imagine a location with 4 cost or less, 2 lore, and a movement cost of 1 that's not going to be playable. 2 lore is a big threat, especially for 3 cost. Even though it only has 5 health, it's 5 health that your opponent has to put a high priority on dealing with. And that buys you breathing room, gives you an opportunity to take out the characters that he has to use to deal with Agrabah, or draws a removal like a Along Came Zeus. It's good. This is the best common we've seen so far from Ruby in this set. I like it. It's definitely going to see play. Webby Vanderquack, Enthusiastic Duck, 3 cost, 3/4 in stats, 1 lore. He's fine. He's acceptable. sealed deck type card, budget card. That's about it. Not going to be playable in many competitive decks winning tournaments. Moana, Undeterred Voyager, 4 cost 3/4 with evasive, 1 lore. It's a budget way to deal with evasive characters or to provide evasive. Evasive is good, but it's not very threatening without 2 lore, which is what this card is missing to really be exceptional. So it's not going to see much play. Evasive cards, they really need 2 lore in order to be really good, especially a 4 cost one. Jim Hawkins, Space Traveler. Oh, this is not a common, so we're not going to take a look at him yet. Last of the commons is Billy Bones, Keeper of the Map, 5 cost 6/5 with 1 lore. The same thing applies to him that is applied to all of the commons we've seen so far that have no ability in this color. They're budget cards. They are sealed deck cards. They're just not good enough to see play outside of those environments. You're looking for 6/6 in stats, or 2 or even 3 lore in order to be good cards. On to the uncommons. Jolly Roger, Hook's Ship, 1 cost uninkable, 2 movement cost, 5 health, no lore. Characters gain rush while here. They can challenge the turn they're played. Your pirate characters may move here for free. Well, that's very good with pirate characters. It means you play it for 1 cost, you play a pirate character, he moves there, and then they can immediately attack. That could see play with strong pirate characters. Potentially, maybe with Captain Hook and Mr. Smee, which is a very common combo. You could see Jolly Roger. Maybe you need at least 1 more pirate in your deck, I don't know. But at least you could experiment. Like 1 cost to give multiple characters rush. And it's not like a clear and immediate threat enough to draw opponent attacks. It might, but they might just leave it. If they had to use something like Rise of the Titans to deal with it, it would be a 1 cost in exchange for 3. That's a beneficial trade for the player. I think this card provides pretty good value. I like it. If you're playing 2 or 3 pirates, maybe like 12 cards in your decks are pirates, yeah, I could see running this. And you'd give them all rush for as long as this is on the table. Yeah, it doesn't provide lore, but it's basically just give all your pirates rush for 1 cost. And you have the option of paying 2 to give anybody you want rush if you want to move them there. I think this is good. I don't remember seeing it in many competitive decks so far, but I think this card is good. Maybe an underrated card. If you are running multiple pirates. And maybe not many Ruby decks will. The most common Ruby deck is like Amethyst Ruby Bounce. And I don't think that deck plays any pirates. So, yeah. But I like the card. I think it's good. Especially for an uncommon. I've Got a Dream, 2 cost song. Ready a chosen character of yours at a location. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. Gain lore equal to that location's lore. Well, if you gained 2 lore for this and ready the character, would that be good? Yeah. It's hard to set up though. You need a character at a location, a situation where you need them to be ready right away, and it needs to be a 2 lore location. I think that's too unwieldy of a combo for this to see much play. It's good if you can get that effect off. Its ceiling isn't high enough though to justify the downside, but it is inkable. Still, I think there are better options available for 2 cost song or just 2 cost in general. Trigger, Not So Sharp Shooter, 2 cost 3/1. Your character's named Nutsy get +1. lore. Okay. And Netsi was a 2-3 common for 2 cost with 1 lore. So for your 4 energy, you'll get 3-1 and 2-3 in stats. It's 9 stats for 4 energy. And you get 1 character with 2 lore and 1 character with 1 lore. That's not good stats. It's not a good amount of lore for 4 energy. I mean, it's an okay amount of lore, I guess. 3 lore for 4 energy, sure. But Trigger's easy to deal with at 1 health. Nutsy with a 2-3 and 2 lore. Yeah, this combo isn't enough upside for the investment it requires. And I don't think it's going to see play. Hi Accidental Explorer, 2 cost 3-2. Once per turn, when this character moves to a location, each opponent loses 1 lore. Okay, so it usually costs, probably you'll want to pay 1 to move this to a location. So 2 cost for 2-3 in stats, 1 lore isn't good. Paying 1 to remove 1 lore from an opponent is good. In multiplayer, this is really good. In solo, I don't think he sees play too much, maybe occasionally, but in multiplayer, this is pretty good. It's a pretty good card in multiplayer. Sumerian Talisman, 3 cost. During your turn, whenever one of your characters is banished in a challenge, you may draw a card. You would need to draw 3 cards with this to make this good. So if you're playing a character-heavy deck where you want to do a lot of fighting, play the item on turn 3, draw 3 cards over the course of the game, you're doing great. If you draw more than that, even better. Less than 3, if you draw 2, okay. If you draw 1, it's pretty bad. So, not a card you're happy to see when you're top decking, but on curve, it's not bad. This could see some play. It's card draw. Yeah, you could see this in some decks, in some pretty good decks. I don't think it's a 4 of, but you could definitely see this in some pretty good decks. Dive Bomb, 3 cost, banish one of your characters with Reckless to banish chosen character with less attack than that character. 3 cost for that is too much. I don't think that sees play ever. That seems pretty terrible. The situation where that would be good is very, very niche. Like maybe with Maui. After he's already done an attack, then you could have him dive bomb. But other than that, I think that's about it. So I don't expect to see this card very often. Somebody might try to make it work. It wouldn't be easy though. Maui Soaring Demigod. 3 cost, not inkable, 5-2 in stats. Reckless. When a character of yours named Hi quests, this character gets +1 lore and loses Reckless. This just is not good enough to see play. With the Hi thing, I think that's just a thematic card, a fun thematic card. Not really intended to be a competitive card, I don't think. And I predict we won't see this really ever in the tournament meta. Slightly Lost Boy, 4 cost, 4-3 in stats. If you have a character named Peter Pan in play, you pay 1 less to play this character, so you'd pay 3 for a 4-3, which still isn't that good. I mean, a 4-3 with evasive is good, but with 1 lore, you're really looking at like an offensive takes out evasive characters rather than a defensive one, and the defensive ones tend to be better. I don't see this seeing a lot of play. It's probably intended for like a fun thematic Lost Boy deck with Peter Pan. And the final uncommon for the Ruby cards is a Scroop Backstabber. 5 cost, 2-5. He is a pirate. While this character has damage, he gets +3 attack. He has 2 lore. That would boost him up to 5-5. That's still not very good for 5 cost. This seems terrible. will never see play except maybe in fun pirate decks, would be my prediction. So far, Agrabah from the commons is a standout. Maybe Jolly Roger, maybe Sumerian Talisman. Overall, the Ruby set so far is looking pretty weak compared to Amethyst or Emerald. Let's continue on to the rares. Simba Scrappy Cub. 2 cost, uninkable, 1/1 with 3 lore. Well, that's a big threat. You probably pretty often will get 3 lore for your 2 cost. Or Simba may draw a removal card, which kind of overkills him. He could draw something as big as like a... Well, he could draw a Storm Rages On. He could draw a Cannons card that does 2 damage. He could draw a Smash that does 3 damage. The 3 lore is a big enough threat that he may draw some pretty big removal. I like this card. I think it's not bad. 3 lore for 2 cost. It's uninkable. That hurts him a lot. But 3 lore for 2 cost, even with no ability. I mean, that's pretty solid. That's a big threat. Even in the late game, he scales up fairly well. He provides lore, because when you're top decking, the opponent may not have removal for this right away. Now, he's never really going to quest more than once. The opponent's always going to kill him because it's a fairly low cost to do so. They're always going to overkill him because of his 1 health. There's situations where he's just bad value, like against Tinkerbell, against Draw Your Sword. Very interesting card. I think you could see some play. Something I might experiment with a little bit. There'll be situations where he's going to be real good. If you're in a situation where the opponent's drawn poorly in the early game, he could get you off to a 6 lore start pretty efficiently. Yeah, interesting. Don't know that it's a card that I recommend running out and buying, but if you pull it from a pack, might be worth experimenting with a bit. Maui's Fishhook, 3 cost item. If you have a character named Maui in play, you may use this item's shapeshift ability for free. Exert the item costs 2. Choose 1. Chosen character gains evasive until the start of your next turn. Chosen character gains +3 attack this turn. If you can use this twice, I think it's pretty good. For free. So, if you're running 4 of Maui, and if you're running Ruby, you probably are running the 6 attack Maui with Rush. And you could add Maui's Fishhook to boost that attack by 3, or to give him the ability to take on evasive characters. Is that worth the 3 cost? I think we'll see this card. I don't think it's a 4 of, though. I think you might see like 2 of in some tournament decks. But it is good. It is a good card. It will see play. It's seen play already in some tournament decks that I've seen. Ruby Amethyst Bounce primarily. I like it. It gives you options for trading up. It's a big threat over time. Yeah, I like it. I think it does deserve to see play most of the time. If you're playing Maui Hero to All, then Maui's Fishhook should be in the deck as well, unless you have very few characters in the deck. RLS Legacy Solar Galleon, 4 cost, not inkable, oof, and 3 to move there. That's a big investment. 8 health, that's good. 2 lore, that's good. Characters gain evasive while here. If you have a character here, you pay 2 less energy to move a character of yours here. So this is a Jim Hawkins location. Jim Hawkins allows you to play a location for free. He can move to a location for free. He would combo extremely well with RLS Legacy, Jim Hawkins Space Traveler. Without Jim Hawkins Space Traveler, I don't know if this card makes sense, unless you just want a 4 cost card that'll give you 2 lore every turn, it's a big threat that opponents have to deal with. The uninkable does hurt it, but 4 cost for 2 lore, you're almost guaranteed to get 4 lore out of it, and that's really strong. This will see some play. It's a little bit unwieldy. It's a little bit unwieldy because of being uninkable. But it'll see some play with Jim Hawkins. I think it's pretty good with Jim Hawkins. Maybe not 4 of, but maybe running 2 of with Jim Hawkins Space Traveler would be good. On your feet now, 4 cost. Ready all your characters and deal 1 damage to each of them. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. I think this card is terrible. Uninkable. Unless you have some kind of crazy synergy with dealing 1 damage to each of your own characters. Flashbacks to Hearthstone with the Everybody Get In Here deck. But apart from that, I think this card is not good at all. Does not need to be that expensive or uninkable. Or they could make it inkable, but 4 cost. Don't think it sees much play. Moana, Born Leader, 5 cost, 4/4, shift 3. Whenever this character quests while at a location, ready all other characters here. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. You would need a couple of characters, like 1 or 2 characters at least at the location that need to be readied. And to have Moana there, that's a lot of resources invested. Yeah, I don't think this sees play because it's too expensive to get that combo off. Like most of the other location effects, they're just too expensive. Too expensive to make them good. Captain Hook, Master Swordsman, 5 cost, 5/4. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, ready this character. He can't quest for the rest of this turn. Characters named Peter Pan lose evasive and can't gain evasive. 5/4 that can ready himself when he banishes a character. I think he's good with Jolly Roger. That would be 6 cost for a 5/4. Jolly Roger gives evasive. No, just rush. So it would be 6 cost for a 5/4 with rush. And he can ready himself if he banishes a character. It's pretty good. Compares favorably to Maui, who's 5 cost, 6/5 with rush. But he doesn't have any lore, and he also can't ready himself. It's pretty good. With Jolly Roger, it could see some play. I think that combo is worth experimenting with. Can help you clear the board. I really wish Jolly Roger generated some lore, but Captain Hook, Master Swordsman, with Jolly Roger. Without Jolly Roger, I don't know. I think it only makes sense in pirate decks without Jolly Roger. And are they good enough together that you would include both of them? Only if you're running other pirates. I think there's a limited amount of really good ones. Mr. Smee, the less power Captain Hook are good. Might be too few options in the pirate category to say, yes, certainly people will run that combo and it'll be really good for them. But it'll be something to keep in mind should more pirate characters be added. Peter Pan, Pirate's Bane, 6 cost, 4/5, shift 4, evasive, 2 lore. Whenever he challenges a pirate character, this character takes no damage from the challenge. Well, seems good when he's challenging a pirate, seems overcosted when he isn't. So I don't think this will see play. Not at 6 cost, maybe at 5. At 5 cost, yeah, 5 cost with evasive and 2 lore, that would definitely see some play, I think. But 6 cost is too much. Maui, Whale, 7 cost, 8/8. This mission is cursed. This character can't ready at the start of your turn. 2 cost, you can pay 2 to ready this character, but he can't quest for the rest of this turn. That doesn't seem like a good card to me. Too expensive. A common theme for the cards in this set for Ruby. They're all pretty expensive, even Maui's Fishhook. The highlights would be like Maui's Fishhook, RLS Legacy, Agrabah. I think that's about it. Maybe Jolly Roger. They all have pretty decent, pretty big downsides though. They're like borderline cards. Ruby cards for this set seem a little on the weaker side. I'd rank them higher than Amber, but behind Amethyst and Emerald so far. Super Rares. Aerial Adventurous Collector, 3 cost 2/3 with Evasive. Whenever you play a song, chosen character of yours gains Evasive until the start of your next turn. 1 lore. Nope, don't think that sees play. Granting Evasive isn't quite strong enough given the... Well, everybody's playing removal right now. Everybody's playing Along Came Zeus. No, obviously, that's in Steel, so not everybody. There's too much removal available. Too much bounce, too much direct damage to make Evasive good enough to justify the low stats on this card, so don't think it sees play. Prince Eric, 4 cost, not inkable, 2/2. When this character is banished, you may banish chosen character, 2 lore. That is good. I do think that sees play. It's not good if it gets bounced back to your hand, but any form of direct damage. He's got 2 lore if they don't want to take it out. You can take out something much higher costed than 4. It's good. Sometimes it's not going to be that great. Sometimes it's just going to die. It's going to take out something small. It needs to take out at least a 3-drop to really be strong. That isn't always going to be an option. Sometimes there will only be 2 or 1 drops on the board. So it's going to be hit or miss. When it hits, it'll be great value. When it misses, it'll be pretty meh. Too expensive to be just a slam dunk, yes, this is good type card and will be included in every Ruby deck. People will experiment with it, and it's okay, but nothing exceptional. Madame Medusa, the boss, 6 cost, uninkable, 4/4. When you play this character, banish chosen opposing character with 3 cost or less, 1 lore. Okay, now we're talking. This is the best card of the set, of the Ruby color in this set that we've seen so far. This is good. I expect this card to be included in pretty much every Ruby deck. And it's a reason why people are playing Bounce Amethyst Ruby. It's one of the big reasons. It's a very, very good card. You'll see this card a lot. And the legendaries, we have Jim Hawkins Space Traveler, 5 cost, 4/4. When you play this character, you may play a location with 4 or less for free, with cost 4 or less for free. And whenever you play a location, this character may move there for free, 2 lore. This is very, very strong. It's a reason to play locations that aren't even that strong. But if you get out a location like Queen's Castle, RLS Legacy with Jim Hawkins, that's really, really good. Really good combo. And this card alone, along with Madame Medusa, are reasons to play Ruby when you might not otherwise have a reason. And Be Prepared is still really good too. But I would run Jim Hawkins along with probably RLS Legacy, 2 of in most Ruby decks, if not all. Really good card. Gonna fetch a high price. Now, how does it rate compared to the other really strong legendaries that we've seen? That would be Ursula and Jafar. He's comparable to Ursula, I think. Probably not as good as Jafar. And maybe a little less than Ursula. I'd probably rank him number 3. Probably recommend picking up those other 2 cards first. Hydra Deadly Serpent, 6 cost, 6/5. Whenever this character is dealt damage, deal that much damage to chosen opposing character and 2 lore. It's okay. It's terrible if it gets bounced, though, by Genie, by Hades. Absolutely terrible. Most high-cost characters, you want them to do something right away. Guaranteed. I mean, most characters in general, but especially the high-cost ones, it's devastating when they do nothing. If he does get dealt 5 damage, though, he's pretty good. A 6/5 that deals 5 in return. You're not always going to have a situation where you can take full advantage of that, similar to Prince Eric. But when he's good, he's going to be really good. I mean, that's a theme that I'm seeing of the Ruby Sphere, is that his cards are very all or nothing. Like really good, or in some situations, but then pretty bad at other times. Overall, I'd rank Ruby behind Emerald and Amethyst cards. Maybe ahead of Amber, but not by a lot. It's on the weaker side, this set. That's all for the Ruby cards from Into the Inklands. And next up will be Sapphire. And thank you for watching.